A second firefighter dies after last week's deadly row home fire.
It's just a punch in the gut. It's devastating.
The emotional words from his fellow firefighters on what he meant to them and the department. A Baltimore City councilman says police failed to act after a man is mugged.
What is happening is not okay.
What some say is behind the problem. Plus, we bring his comments directly to the mayor.
What do you say to people who are fearful and feel like they have lost their sense of security and safety in their own community?
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Fox 45 News has learned a second firefighter has died from his injuries following a deadly house fire. A week after a fire in northwest Baltimore kills one city firefighter and injured 4 others, sadly, a second firefighter, Lieutenant Dylan Ronaldo, has died. This is the 6th death to hit the fire department in less than 2 years. Mayor Brandon Scott reacting this afternoon.
This is a reminder of why folks have to be thankful to women and men who choose that line of work, because they are literally putting their lives at risk for everyone else every single day.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. The news of Lieutenant Ronaldo's death comes as the department prepares to say goodbye to firefighter Rodney Pitts this week.
Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live in Dundalk, where his viewing is taking place today. Maxine.
Kai and Mary, as members of the fire department and public arrive here today to pay their respects to firefighter Rodney Pitts, their hearts even heavier after they lost another brother, Lieutenant Ronaldo. Ronaldo was injured in the fire last week and had been at Bayview since then, succumbing to his injuries late last night.
Had a strong passion for the fire service.
The Baltimore City Fire Department is mourning today after the loss of a second firefighter in less than a week.
Everybody's hurting from it. It was an emotional roller coaster this past week. Ups and downs.
Lieutenant Dylan Ronaldo died last night after he was injured in a house fire along Linden Heights Avenue last Thursday. Officials saying the fire suddenly strengthened, killing 31-year-old Rodney Pitts that day and injuring Ronaldo and 3 other firefighters.
There was nothing to indicate that this was a normal fire for us.
Ronaldo had been with the department since 2018 and was promoted to lieutenant last year. According to an online fundraiser, he was recently engaged and his wedding was just months away. He's described as an amazing friend, selfless, with a true passion for his job.
He was very well liked and respected, and a lot of his colleagues are obviously having to deal with the horrible news today and taking it very hard.
Prior to his time in Baltimore, the Fairlawn Fire Department in New Jersey says he served 6 years with Engine Company 4. Firefighting was in his blood. His father was the former chief of the New Jersey Department. Fire Officers Union President Josh Fannin says they were all hopeful he'd pull through.
After we knew we had lost Rodney Pitts, that we were clinging to some kind of hope that a silver lining to a already tragic situation was that we were going to be by Dylan's side and walk him out of the burn center one day on his road to full recovery, and we were hanging on to that.
Ronaldo is the 6th member of the department to die in less than 2 years. 3 firefighters passed during the Stricker Street fire in January of 2022. Another suffered an on-duty medical emergency last October.
We're still healing from Stricker Street, and then we lose a member on Thursday right away, and then to have Dylan, you know, still be here and then tragically succumb to his injuries last night, it's just a punch in the gut, you know, it's devastating.
The fire union says their members are doing as expected after losing 2 brothers.
A lot of time together, you know, in the firehouses, you know, outside the job, you know, when you technically fight fire together, you depend on each other to have each other's backs, and when something like this happens, it hits you. It takes your confidence away.
You can get closer than family And I don't think it's not a bond that's easily duplicated in any other walk of life.
Now, Pitt's funeral is set for this Friday. Services for Ronaldo have yet to be announced. Reporting live in Dundalk, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. Another big story that we're following out of Baltimore is a string of violent crimes sweeping the city.
That's right. Just this weekend, there were at least 49 criminal incidents, according to one council member. On your screen is one of them, a man on a scooter robbed after he was nearly hit by a group of people. The weekend before, BPD reported half a dozen carjackings and armed robberies. Councilmember Eric Costello saying the administration and BPD are failing the residents of Baltimore.
I've lost confidence in the administration's ability to manage this problem.
We have live team coverage. Mackenzie Frost is taking Councilman Eric Costello's comments right to the mayor.
First, Rebecca Pryor has more on the city's response to these crimes. Rebecca?
Yeah, this week, the delayed response to that robbery caught on cameras. Councilman Eric Costello up in arms and demanding action from the department.
When you call 911 for help,
can I get a CC number for armed robbery?
You expect an immediate response and thorough investigation.
There's been this back and forth about whether or not they're aware of the incident that happened in the first place.
But Councilman Eric Costello claims that wasn't the case early Tuesday morning when a man riding a scooter in South Baltimore boxed in by two cars and mugged along a well-lit street beside a slew of surveillance cameras capturing the attack from every angle.
I'm not sure what else there is to be aware of besides video footage of it.
However, after calling BPD that day to learn where the investigation stood, Costello claims it hadn't even started.
9 hours after the incident happened, no one had contacted the gentleman who called 911, and no one reached out to the Federal Reserve Bank, which is across the street, which has more cameras than you have silverware in your silverware drawer.
He adds it's far from the first time a violent attack in his district has been met with a slow to no response.
What is happening is not okay.
It's a common complaint.
Former Baltimore Police Commissioner Ed Norris pointing to a lack of manpower within the department.
When I was in, it was a 3,200 person department. Now it's, I think, under 2,000. That's outrageous in a city that's dangerous.
Saying the less boots on the ground means it's less likely your emergency will be treated as such. Although he argues there's still no excuse incidents like these aren't being prioritized.
That's a really serious crime. If they don't respond, I would call a supervisor, or I'd have you guys pressure them.
Pressure, Costello says, should be coming from the Deputy Mayor of Public Safety and within the department.
I've spent every waking moment over the last 5 days fielding phone calls, text messages, and emails from residents who don't feel safe.
Instead of residents coming to him as a last resort.
People are scared to come out of their home in the middle of broad daylight. That is insane. The administration needs to do something to get this situation under control.
Now, in a letter set out yesterday, Costello asked Deputy Mayor of Public Safety Anthony Barksdale to come up with an action plan to address the recent rise in robberies in his district. I reached out to Barksdale and BPD this afternoon, asking them for their response to Costello's concerns, but as of news time tonight, have not heard back. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. Mayor Brandon Scott pushing back on the councilman's criticism, arguing the police are doing their jobs.
The councilman says he has the respect and confidence in the deputy mayor. That means he has the confidence in the administration because he's my deputy mayor for a reason.
Well, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live right now. Mackenzie, the councilman has strong words for the mayor and his team, as we heard, of course, in Rebecca's story.
Yeah, yes, he does, Kai. And we know that the mayor, as we just heard, say that he doesn't believe the councilman can have faith in the deputy mayor without having faith in the administration, because the mayor says those two things are linked. Now, we're seeing this come almost as a tipping point as we continue to see more and more reports of brazen robberies. Car thefts are skyrocketing and violent encounters continue to take place all across the city. Now, we know that the mayor says he believes the Baltimore Police Department are doing their job, and now the mayor is touting declining crime numbers. What do you say to people who are fearful and feel like they have lost their sense of security and safety in their own community?
What I would say is, listen, we know that robberies are actually down in the city of Baltimore. Before the councilman sent his letter, myself, the deputy mayor, had our meeting with the police leadership, and we addressed the issue that we needed them to make sure they were breaking these rings. The fact of the matter is Baltimore is down in robberies. The fact of the matter is that we're down in homicides that we don't seem to talk about anymore, right? They're down 19% in the city of Baltimore. We know that auto theft is an issue across this country.
But is it acceptable that you're telling these people that homicides and the numbers are down, but people are still getting robbed, they're getting attacked?
Well, I think that, Mackenzie, you could be looking for some kind of sound clip, but the reality is that multiple things can be true. I was a victim, so I know better than most people. I don't know if you ever had a gun stuck in your face, so I know how that feels directly. But we also have to understand when you're talking about the totality of things, you have to tell them for all of it. Anybody that's a victim, I'm going to feel sorry for. It don't matter where they live in the city, don't matter what they look like, how long they've been here. But we also have to understand that this is not just on the backs of the women and men of BPD. This is not just about the police and what they're doing, because they are doing their job each and every day. This is about making sure that the system works.
So is DJS not working?
It's his turn to ask questions, Mackenzie.
Okay. I tried to get that question in asking the mayor about his views on the Department of Juvenile Services and asking whether he believes DJS is working. And that's an important piece to this conversation, because while the mayor talks about all of the pieces in the system working together, we know that DJS plays a critical role in this conversation, especially when it comes to juveniles committing crimes. We know we've heard time and time again from police and prosecutors who argue that they believe that current juvenile laws make it more difficult to charge some of the youngest offenders with crimes. And the reality is right now, the mayor has not said whether he would support repealing some of those juvenile laws. Now, we're here in West Baltimore following another mayoral event that took place not that long ago, earlier this afternoon. Coming up at 5, you'll have to see what happened when we tried to ask the mayor even more questions about his entire public safety plan. We're live in West Baltimore. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, last night, Fox 45 News held a town hall that Mackenzie hosted with former mayor of Baltimore, Sheila Dixon, who's running for mayor again. She discussed how to restore public trust when it comes to public safety.
I know people say you don't want to go on the past, but one of the things we focused on in order to reduce crime, not only with the number of guns off the street and the number of murders reduced, but the quality of life in neighborhoods.
Well, if you missed last night's town hall, it will air Saturday at 1 p.m. on MyTV Baltimore, Saturday at 11 p.m. on the CW, and Sunday at midnight right here on Fox 45. By the way, you can also stream the entire town hall online at foxbaltimore.com.
For the first time, we are hearing from the family of Andrew Wilkinson, the Maryland judge shot and killed right outside of his Hagerstown home last week. In a statement today, his wife thanked local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies for their immediate and continued response to the tragedy. She went on to say Drew would be very grateful for all of your efforts for both us and the community. A funeral will be held this Friday at the St. Anne Roman Catholic Church in Hagerstown. The service begins at 10.
Over the weekend, police found the vehicle of that suspect, Pedro Argote, about 8 miles south of Hagerstown, but he's still on the loose. There's currently a $10,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. A petition to change the names of at least 6 schools in one Maryland school system named after those who owned slaves. We'll tell you where a meeting is happening this evening.
The stalemate over a House Speaker finally over. Next, 2 lawmakers have given the position to
attacks on American military bases overseas, why U.S. officials believe Iran is responsible and what they're doing to push back. I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with a look.
And if you'll be getting some lawn mowing or mulching done this afternoon, this evening, I think we'll have temperatures very nice for it. 70s falling into the 60s, mainly dry skies, just a couple of clouds. I'll let you know when rain's going to become a problem around here and a big cool down on the way in my Weather Authority forecast.
The stalemate for House Speaker has come to an end. Louisiana Republican Mike Johnson chosen this afternoon as the next House Speaker. Johnson, a lawyer specializing in constitutional issues, was the fourth GOP nominee in the tumultuous race for this seat.
I want to say to the American people, on behalf of all of us here, we hear you. We know the challenges you're facing. We know that there's a lot going on in our country, domestically and abroad, and we are ready to get to work again to solve those problems.
Well, Fox 45 News spoke with Maryland Congressman Andy Harris moments after the vote.
Well, I think the House made an excellent choice. I think Mike Johnson is going to be an exceptional leader for the country. It's a difficult time in our country. It's a difficult time in the world. And I think he has all the leadership qualities that are going to be necessary to lead the House of Representatives in these difficult times.
Johnson takes over as the federal government is just weeks away from a possible government shutdown. Right now, lawmakers are also debating military aid to Ukraine and Israel.
American officials are promising to push back hard against Iran if groups supported by that country keep attacking American military personnel overseas.
That's right. At least 24 Americans have been hurt so far. All of this happening amidst the mayhem that continues to unfold between Israel and Hamas.
Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman shows us what's at stake.
For the White House, no time to mince words.
My warning to the Ayatollah was that if they continue to move against those troops, we will respond, and he should be prepared.
President Biden, in light of news that 24 American military personnel have been wounded in a series of drone strikes on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria, the Pentagon saying the attacks were supported by Iran.
We do not want this war to widen. But if Iran or its proxies attack U.S. personnel anywhere, make no mistake, we will defend our people, we will defend our security, swiftly and decisively.
Iran's exact role in the Israeli-Gaza war is still being determined, but many see them either as participants or at the very least proponents, and now taking advantage of the chaos to go after Americans too. While the president's sending F-16 fighter jets to help deter more attacks on Americans, critics wonder if the administration has done enough to keep Iran in check, pointing to Biden recently unfreezing $6 billion in Iranian assets that have since been blocked again.
Enforce the sanctions. They should be able to sell oil. Number two, stop giving them money. Make sure the $6 billion never gets there. Okay. And number three, then what's the next step it's going to take? Do we have to destroy all their oil fields? Do we have to destroy their nuclear facilities?
Now reports indicate there are red lights flashing everywhere. But analysts say Iran is walking a tightrope, aware if it pushes too hard or begins a wider war, it could trigger a direct fight with Israel and the U.S. Complicating matters more is China, which has been strengthening its ties with Iran, but both nations face global sanctions and can only push so far or risk more economic turmoil. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
Well, take a look at this. A foggy start to the day in Aberdeen and other parts of Maryland. Gary sent us these pictures. He took around 8:20 this morning. He said it was sunny and clear, and then suddenly the fog rolled in. Oh, isn't that interesting? Jonathan, do you know where it came from?
I'm not going to say that happened in my house. I'm not denying that it happened. There's looks like a little bit of patchy fog maybe coming off the Chesapeake Bay.
Sure.
The dew point and those cool numbers this morning, and that'll give it the relative humidity you need for the fog with the calm winds and all that. Any case, besides the science of all this, most folks have had a mainly sunny day, aside from that little patch of fog you saw there. Now in the Bay Bridge, speaking of the Bay, we've got 77 degrees and actually some mostly cloudy skies. It's high clouds primarily with the traffic going back and forth. Still need some sunglasses. Winds out of the southwest. That's a warm direction at 7, and humidity, wow, bone dry, 29%. So that's what we got down to a low of 43 this morning. And again, another huge temperature recovery back well into the 70s and over 30-degree temperature rise by this afternoon. 77 Baltimore, 76 at Cockeysville, pushing 80 at Westminster, 77 at Chestertown, and 72 Stevensville. We're getting into that time of year where the water is beginning to cool off a little bit. So places like Annapolis, they don't warm quite as effectively. They're more impacted by the Severn River as well as the Chesapeake Bay. They're at 67. Temperatures are running, though, about 3 to 6, maybe even locally 7 to 8 degrees warmer than they were just 24 hours ago. If you remember yesterday, we made it 72. Today, so far up to 77, maybe a degree higher or two by the time it's all said and done. Then there's some rain that's off to our north and then back to our west down toward Dallas. And then there's even a bunch of snow. Yeah, there's snow up toward Rapid City and northbound. That's on the other side of the country, basically in another season than us right now. Sunshine, fair weather, high pressure is our weather maker. That's going to stay with us next several days. Real treat here with temperatures probably pushing 80 degrees tomorrow all the way through Friday, even into Saturday. We're on the warm side of the country. Yep, Billings, that is not a mistake. 16 with the snow in that area. So there is winter out there, and eventually we're going to get in on at least a piece of it. Now, out in the tropics, we have Hurricane Tammy in Category 2. This thing looks like it eventually becomes extratropical and mainly right now looking like east of Bermuda with no impacts to the U.S. So overall tonight, another cool overnight. I think we'll hit the mid-40s to near 50 degrees. And then tomorrow afternoon, here we go again. 70s to near 80 degrees. You might start saying, are we going to get near records? Yep, we are. 79 tomorrow. That's 2 degrees off the record. 82. That could tie the record on Friday. 83 is near a record on Saturday. Then maybe a spot shower for Sunday. And by Halloween, cold front comes through Monday. You're going to feel a lot more like fall. 56 jackets needed there. Blustery and chilly.
In West Baltimore today, Mayor Scott, along with other city leaders, celebrating a new housing development in the Druid Heights community. It is designed to offer home ownership for low-income families, helping to ensure financial stability.
This is West Baltimore. This is Druid Heights, where we have seen historic levels of disinvestment, and now we're able to start to flip that by making that investment into the housing so that people, black people, can own homes and hand that off to the next generation. We met with one of the new homeowners here on site today. It's a great day to be in West Baltimore.
The Druid Heights community has seen other major developments with the construction of multiple parks in the surrounding area. Still ahead tonight, if you're searching for a good scare this Halloween, look no further. A closer look at what Field of Screams has to offer this year, plus a prestigious new title. But first, the road to the World Series is set. Rocco DeSangro with the matchup for the championship.
The road through postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
The first two games of the NLCS, the Phillies looked unbeatable, and they were, jumping out to a 2-0 lead over the Diamondbacks, but the tables turned quickly as Arizona took 2 of the next 3 at home in Game 6 in back-to-back. Game 6 and 7 in Philly, setting a winner-take-all Game 7. Standing room only for this one, game tied at 2 in the 5th. Gabriel Moreno going to plate Corbin Carroll with a big RBI single that gives Arizona the lead. The Phillies had their opportunities to get back in this one, 2 on for Bryce Harper. You'll see him here, Kevin Ginkel gets him to pop out to left. The Phillies' big bats, Harper, Trey Turner, Nick Castellanos, 0 for 23 combined in Games 6 and 7. The Diamondbacks are headed to the World Series with a 4-2 win in Philadelphia. With that, the stage is set for the 2023 Fall Classic. It's the Diamondbacks representing the NL, beating the Phillies to get there, and the Rangers representing the AL, punching their ticket with a series win over the Astros. The two teams are going to square off this Friday in Game 1. That's coming up. The Rangers will have home field advantage. Games 1 and 2 will be played in Arlington before the two teams head out to the desert for Game 3. Mary.
Rocco, thank you. We are your exclusive home for the 2023 World Series. The Fall Classic begins this Friday, October 27th. You can catch all the action right here on Fox 45. Continuing coverage as Fox 45 News speaks to a woman inside the impound lot as she waits to recover her car for a second time. Her frustration tonight. The state's Department of Health misses out on more than $1 billion in federal money, and it could be the result of poor communication. We have a taxpayer advocate joining us live after the break to discuss this issue. Stay with us.
Financial troubles in the Maryland Department of Health. A General Assembly audit reveals the state hasn't been reimbursed for $1.4 billion in expenses at the department.
So how did this happen? We are joined live right now by David Williams. He is the president of the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. David, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon. And this is a real problem. We're talking about $1.4 billion. And basically, it's a simple mistake, but it cost a lot of money because what happened was the state is supposed to submit paperwork to the federal government and they get reimbursed for some of the expenses, especially as it deals with COVID funding. And they didn't do that. And that's why I say it's a simple mistake, but obviously costing a lot of money. And there was really a failure on so many levels here within the state for this not to happen. And we're just finding out about this now. And this is a major problem considering the state is looking at deficits starting next year of $400 million and ballooning to $1 billion in 2028. So you can see where not receiving this money is a really big deal and puts a lot of fiscal pressure on the state right now.
David, I think it's referred to as a structural deficit. In other words, the state is expending more money than it's bringing in revenue, if I'm not mistaken. We understand it was a state auditor who flagged the health department's attention to 3 years of money that hadn't been reimbursed. Is this a lack of oversight, a lack of transparency? What happened here?
This really is a lack of oversight. And finally, we're getting this transparency, and the transparency is way overdue for this. And there needs to be better controls within each agency. This is one agency. This is Department of Health. We don't know what's happening in other agencies because you have a lot of different projects. You have transportation projects. So I think at this point, the whole state government needs to be audited to figure out the that's being lost, and not only lost, but just that's not being captured from the federal government. And it's a missed opportunity for the state, for the citizens of Maryland. And what my concern is that now that you have these pressures on the state, these fiscal pressures, what is the next step? And listen, this audit is fantastic, but what's going to happen next is how are they going to try to recover this money, if they even can? That's the question, Kai, is can they even get this money now? It may be too late to get this.
Well, we know they have a new health secretary in place. She's the one who is on top of it right now under the Moore administration. She's brought all the auditing agencies in the health department together in one office to make sure there's oversight, at least in auditing. What else do you think that they should do?
Well, I think there needs to be, monthly communications with the public as to what the progress is. We've seen that in other programs, the education program, that, people were left in the dark. They didn't know where their money went, the interest that was accrued. So I think there needs to be better communication with folks and really get a handle on this. And, what's really frustrating is we live in a time of technology. There's no reason for this not to happen. We're not living in the 70s or 80s where computers were just really coming to the forefront. We have technology, we have devices in our hands that can do so many things, yet the state isn't utilizing those. And this is something that should have been happening on a quarterly basis, is getting these reimbursements from the federal government. So they have to utilize technology a lot more. And, there's a report of a ransomware attack in 2021 that may have hobbled some of the systems. And quite frankly, this is something that I've been talking about for a number of years, is states and the federal government were so quick to spend money that they didn't do the proper oversight to make sure the money was spent properly and wisely, that they wanted to get it out to the people, which is kind of the right instinct, right? You want to get the money out during a pandemic, but there has to be the linkage of oversight with the money. You can't just spend money and hope that it goes to the right people and that you're getting the reimbursements.
Yeah, David, thank you. David, you were calling for that oversight, and you were telling us, because we interviewed you about that a number of times, and we appreciate that. David Williams with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. Always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. Well, Fox 45 News told you about a new IG report in Baltimore just yesterday. It revealed the city failed to collect more than $44 million in debt from 2005 to 2017 from various citywide invoices. Guess what? That money, it cannot be recovered anymore to a 3-year statute of limitations. The payroll division blamed the lack of invoices on the city transitioning to new invoicing software and short staffing.
In this particular instance, a lot of it came down to very poor communications. Well, when poor communications end up the city losing money, we have to do better.
The IG has recommended a number of steps to prevent this from happening again.
When I went back there, I seen nothing but stolen autos, Hyundai's, Kias, and busted windows.
Speaking to Fox 45 News from inside the city's impound lot today, those words from a Baltimore woman whose car has been stolen twice in the last 6 weeks.
That's right. Amy Simpson is live now with this woman's emotional roller coaster to get her car back. Amy, I'm glad she's continuing to talk with us as she works through this crazy process.
Yes, it has been crazy, and she's spoken to us several times this week now, Marian Kai. Tanika Gaskin's telling me she got a phone call, a voicemail from a Baltimore police officer sometime overnight saying that her car had turned up in southwest Baltimore. This after it was stolen for the second time on Sunday night. And that means she spent several hours today at the city's main Pulaski impound lot. Now, if you've watched our coverage, you know that earlier this month, the Baltimore City Department of Transportation declined our request to take a tour of this impound lot. Instead, we sent up our drone and captured a bird's eye view of the sea of cars inside. And as of October 18th, the city's Department of Transportation said 584 stolen cars were inside the Pulaski impound lot at that time. And within the last few hours, Gaskins was able to go inside the lot herself and see her vehicle and what state it was in after it was turned up, ditched by thieves for a second time. She says her ignition is popped out. Both of her driver's side windows are gone, and she continues to blame teens and social media for this problem.
They see something trending on TikTok and now they're doing it. And a lot of juveniles, they know that it's really no consequences if they take the vehicle. They feel like, well, we under 17. If our moms come get us, we go home the same day after they done committed the crime.
And we are tracking this data, these numbers week by week, and that new data just released from Baltimore Police shows that this crime trend of auto thefts continues to have a tight grip on Baltimore City. BPD is now reporting more than 9,000 auto thefts since the start of the year. And still ahead at 5:30, this double auto theft victim, her message to those people committing these crimes against innocent victims. Reporting live, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Thank you. If you have a story about a stolen car or know someone who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, we'd like to hear about it. Scan the QR code on your screen and tell us what happened, or send an email to news@foxbaltimore.com. New tonight, we're learning a 12-year-old boy in Montgomery County has confessed to sending threats to schools on 6 different occasions over a 2-week period this month. According to Chief Marcus Jones, that boy will not face criminal charges because of changes to the state's juvenile justice laws. In a release today, Chief Jones said it is disheartening to accept that the individual responsible for disrupting the educational process and instilling fear in the community was well aware of the legal limitations surrounding their age. We are following this story, and we'll have more on the news at 10 o'clock.
And happening tonight in Montgomery County, a community meeting about the controversial name of a school. There's a move right now to rename Magruder High School. The school opened in 1970 and is named after Colonel Zadok Magruder, a Revolutionary War patriot and founding father of Montgomery County. Magruder, however, owned 26 enslaved people. Right now, there's a petition to change not only that school's name, but 6 others, all of them named after people who owned enslaved people.
Well, Maryland teachers will be getting a big pay boost thanks to an education overhaul pumping billions of dollars into public schools. But how that money can be earned in Baltimore City is raising concerns. Right now, city schools and the Baltimore Teachers Union are discussing a proposal that, according to the Baltimore Banner, would reward teachers for helping or mentoring other educators. This structure would allow teachers to earn additional money that could be paid out immediately. But in a school system like Baltimore, which has been plagued by scandal, Adam Andrzejewski from the government watchdog OpenTheBooks.com worries that kind of pay system could be abused without safeguards.
It's trust but verify. In the Baltimore City Public Schools, they've done a very bad job of building trust with all of their stakeholders by throwing more money at such a corruptful and wasteful system. How is that going to help students?
10 o'clock, Project Baltimore takes a look at how the school system is justifying the plan, and thoughts from the new interim superintendent of Maryland schools, Dr. Carrie Wright.
Well, we're trying to provide a path for them to rebuild that here at Warriors and Quiet Waters.
Battling the lifelong effects of PTSD, how one group is working to provide distinct therapy for those who need it.
And it looks like your commute's going to have some nice temperatures in the 70s, falling into the 60s. And by morning, we've got some crisp numbers on the way, but another warm one could even be threatening 80 the next several days. I'll let you know when it's warmest in my Weather Authority forecast.
Post-traumatic stress disorder affects about 1 in 14 adults, but that rate is much higher among combat veterans. Mark Hyman takes a look at one organization that pairs veterans who have PTSD with outdoor activities to help them recover.
I think it's critical for all Americans to understand that the challenges of service in our military, especially combat service, don't end when the military service members come home.
Retired Marine Colonel Brian Gilman is the CEO of the nonprofit Warriors and Quiet Waters.
Warriors and Quiet Waters enables post-9/11 combat veterans and their loved ones to thrive through peak experiences in nature and strong connections and belonging.
Those peak experiences have aided veterans as they negotiate the next chapters in their lives, especially if they have physical or invisible wounds. At Montana's Quiet Waters Ranch, which has hosted more than 1,600 military, veterans, and spouses since 2007, even the volunteers find the smallest of tasks can be therapeutic. Ken and Jen Aaron spent the week cooking for everyone. A nutritionist helped develop the menu. Ken was an Air Force bomb disposal technician with multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Myself being a retired military and then coming through here as a warrior, it's just a way that we like to give back. It gives us a lot of good feeling to come and support other warriors in the same programs that we went through.
The Aarons have volunteered several times.
You come as a stranger, you leave as family.
But when Ken started as a program guest, he had doubts he belonged.
We had this common theme when we talked about it amongst the 6 of us is why us? We've seen veterans that had mental health issues bigger than mine, veterans that were missing limbs. Why not them? Sorry, a little emotional, but the conversation we had Brian said, you're here because you need to be here at this moment.
We found that same opinion he felt undeserving with Navy SEAL Andy Guillory and his wife, Cassie.
Yeah, I almost felt like not worthy. Why me? Why I get to come?
Andy is still serving and nearing retirement. The Guillorys are trying to avoid challenges others have faced after transitioning. For Andy, switching off from full-time warrior to full-time family man may be easier said than done.
You're changing who you are and going to try and fit yourself into another mold almost. Like he is in the teams, but at that point he will have been a team guy.
For some post-combat veterans who transition to civilian life, the lack of an intense, high-paced, mission-oriented focus can be disorienting.
Well, we're trying to provide a path for them to rebuild that here at Warriors and Quiet Waters.
A week packed with fly fishing, family-style meals, and intimate group discussions emphasize the importance of strong mind, body, and spirit in overcoming challenges. Tying it all together are healthy relationships.
Really look at any strong relationship or a really good team. They show each other vulnerability, which builds trust. Like that's the foundation. And if you have that, it doesn't matter really what comes towards you, you can overcome it.
For Inside Your World Investigates, I'm Mark Hyman in Bozeman, Montana.
Fall is in the air. You can, of course, feel it. This week, Fox 45 News stopped by the Oregon Ridge Nature Center in Cockeysville. It's a beautiful place to go if you've never been there. Well, the trees are changing colors out there, and everyone is invited to come check them out.
We've got hiking trails, we've got paddle trails, we've got biking trails. So we like to say we've got trail systems second to none across the state. But it's a great way to get out and explore these colors, see the leaves changing, and have some quality time.
Park is open from sunrise to sunset. Oregon Ridge is putting on a number of Halloween events, including a spooky night hike. We have more information right now at foxbaltimore.com. Looks beautiful, Jonathan.
Sure does. You know, I used to take my kids on that trail when they were like this big. They're now 9 and 11,
Yeah,
but I remember taking them in the backpack.
Yeah, we've taken our kids on
backpack.
that trail. It's a great place to hike, right? And it's my wife and daughter went recently, and they were worn out. There's some steep hills out there.
Sure, yeah, it's a nice workout, and then you can go and rest in the nature center. Yep. And check all that out. So, all right, gorgeous and beautiful leaves. 77 degrees, mostly cloudy skies right now as we near peak north and west of Baltimore. Winds out of the southwest at 7. Humidity is bone dry at 29%. Toyota Eastern Harbor Skycam looking good. You're going to need some sunglasses on the commute home, although we have kind of a little high cloud deck moving through. 77 in Baltimore right now, 73 at Cockeysville, 77 at Westminster. A little bit cooler near the bay at Annapolis at 67. Temperatures are all running, give or take, either side of about 5 degrees warmer than they were just 24 hours ago, and they're only going up from here. We could be threatening records the next couple of days for late October. How about low 80s, maybe even low to mid 80s a couple of those days. HD radar, I see a band of rain that's down here from Chicago all the way back to Omaha, and then look at this, winter storm warning for portions of North Dakota, and that's not it. I mean, it's all across portions of the Pacific Northwest. So it's almost a change in season on the other side of the country. For now, here it is warmer, and it's actually going to remain that way with sunshine next several days. This is a slow-moving pattern. Notice the showers north and west, and there on the other side of that system, that weather maker, that's where the cold stuff is. Temperature 16. So it's snow and cold at Billings, 47 at Seattle, 42 at Bismarck, up over that boundary, and we're in the 70s to near 80, even into the 80s, and it looks like we're going to remain and stay in that warmth over, again, the next several days into the early weekend. So if you're going to go to the pumpkin patch, you're going to be pretty warm. You're going to need some shorts and short sleeves going around the corn maze into this weekend. Now, Tammy, that's a Category 2 hurricane. It's been hanging out here north of the Antilles past few days. Looks like it becomes eventually an extratropical system, maybe an extratropical hurricane strength type system, and then an extratropical storm as we work in through the next few days. But it will remain likely just east of Bermuda. Now, future scan around here overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. Temperatures falling down into the 50s, probably even I'd say mid to upper 40s when you wake up. So you're probably going to need some jackets and sweaters. By lunchtime tomorrow, well into the 70s, and there you go. There are your potential near 80-degree readings for tomorrow afternoon. 81 is the record high for the day. 82 is the record high for Friday, and it looks like we could very well tie that. Getting up close to the record again on Saturday. Sunday, there could be a stray shower beginning to cool down through the 70s into the 60s. Spot showers on Monday. That's a strong cold front. By Halloween, you're going to need some layers, I think. 56 for a high and a good gusty breeze.
Breaking right now, a judge has sentenced Michael Robertson, the Baltimore man convicted of killing his pregnant girlfriend and their unborn child, to 2 life sentences. Back in May of 2017, family members reported Akia Eggleston missing after she failed to show up for her baby shower. Years later, Robertson was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. During his nearly 3-week-long trial this past summer, the state argued Robertson killed Akia and put her body in a dumpster. Her body was never found. Well, during today's sentencing, several family members read victim impact statements. Robertson remained quiet. The judge ordered the 2 life sentences to be conserved consecutively. Robertson's attorney says they've already filed an appeal. Coming up at 5, the House officially has a new speaker after being vacant for 3 weeks. A closer look at Mike Johnson. First, Halloween is next week, and a local attraction may prove to be one of the spookiest.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Maryland has the scariest Halloween attraction in the nation, apparently. Field of Screams in Olney, Montgomery County, won that spooky title today from USA Today. More than 2 decades ago, a group of friends built that attraction on 18 acres of land. It boasts one of the longest haunted trails in the nation.
We doubled the number of stations on the trail. We put a lot of time and effort into improving the lighting and the sound. There's more actors than there's ever been.
But are they really actors? A portion of the proceeds from the attraction benefits the Olney Boys and Girls Club. And we continue to see your Halloween pictures. Dana sent us this picture of this picture dressed as Batman, and her dog Piper dressed up as Robin. Very cute, Dana. We love it. And after their photo shoot, Piper was treated to a boo cone. We love it. And we'd like to see how you're getting into the Halloween spirit. Send us your pictures and videos at foxbaltimore.com/chime in. You can also send them through the WBFF mobile app. Just look for our Chime In page. Jonathan.
All right, some nice costumes there. And speaking of Halloween, as we get closer, take a look as we head through Friday. Actually, it's a good-looking day. It's warm, though, with sunshine. Temperatures in the 80s could threaten records. Could also threaten records on Saturday. I think any rain here is pretty much overdone. Sunday, though, there could be, I think this might be overdone as well, at least a stray shower. So I'm going to put an orange pumpkin for going to the pumpkin patch, meaning a little touch and go here. There could be a few spot showers if you're going to the pumpkin patch on Sunday. Otherwise, some really nice warm weather Friday and Saturday. High temperatures 82 and 83. So if you're going to be doing any of the fall festivities and activities outside, you'll need some shorts and short sleeves.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, 911 calls in Baltimore see major delays. We press Mayor Brandon Scott on the alarming findings. Victims of car theft speak out as they struggle to retrieve their property, why they continue to run into roadblocks. Is the Baltimore Police Department responding properly to crimes? Why a city councilman says city leaders are failing the community.
What will it take for some residents to feel safe again? Pressing Mayor Scott on whether his public safety plans are working.
A second firefighter dies from his injuries, the tragic fallout of a Northwest Baltimore house fire last week.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. We begin with breaking news tonight. A judge has sentenced Michael Robertson, the Baltimore man convicted of killing his pregnant girlfriend and their unborn child, to 2 life sentences. Back in May of 2017, Akia Eggleston was reported missing after she failed to show up to her baby shower. Years later, Robertson was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder.
During his nearly 3-week-long trial this past summer, the state argued Robertson killed Akia and then put her body in a dumpster. But her body has never been found. During today's sentencing, several family members read victim impact statements. Robertson remained quiet. The judge ordered the 2 life sentences will be served consecutively. Robertson's attorney says they have already filed an appeal. In a city in crisis, there are growing concerns about the police department's ability to help victims.
This is footage from an incident this week that shows a man on a scooter being robbed after his attackers almost hit him with their car. One city council member says BPD did not follow up on this robbery, and it shows the department and the mayor's office are failing the people of Baltimore, according to that council person.
I've lost confidence in the administration's ability to manage this problem.
Tonight, we have team coverage on Baltimore's crime crisis.
Mackenzie Frost pressing the mayor for answers on what his administration is doing to make sure all residents feel safe.
But first, Rebecca Pryor has more on the robbery and concerns the police department isn't doing enough the way it should be. Rebecca?
Yeah, Mary and Kai, the delayed response to that robbery that was caught on camera that you just saw has Councilman Eric Costello up in arms and demanding action from BPD. Let's take a look at that video one more time. You can see that man, he's riding a scooter in South Baltimore, and then he is mugged on a well-lit street just beside the Federal Reserve Bank, which has a slew of surveillance cameras around it. The victim called 911 right after it happened around 3 a.m. But when Costello went to check on where BPD's investigation stood later that day, he says it hadn't even started.
9 hours after the incident happened, no one had contacted the gentleman who called 911, and no one reached out to the Federal Reserve Bank, which is across the street, which has more cameras than you have silverware in your silverware drawer on its campus. It's ridiculous that no one bothered to reach out to either of them to get camera footage.
And Costello adds this is not the first time BPD has been slow to investigate a violent crime in his district. In a letter sent to Deputy Mayor of Public Safety Anthony Barksdale yesterday, Costello asked for an action plan to be put in place to better address the recent rise in robberies. Tonight, I reached out to BPD and Deputy Barksdale, and I asked if they had any response to Costello's concerns, but as of news time tonight, have not heard back. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. Mayor Brandon Scott pushed back on the councilman's criticism, arguing police are doing their jobs. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live. Mackenzie, you pressed Mayor Scott for answers. What's he saying?
Yeah, Kai, the mayor says that it's not just about what Baltimore police officers are doing. He says there are other pieces to this crime puzzle. But the reality is there are several people across the city who don't feel safe in their communities, and they're looking to the mayor for answers. A blistering letter from City Councilman Eric Costello demanding answers about a rash of violent robberies and car thefts. The latest comments from City Hall putting the issue back in the spotlight and putting Mayor Brandon Scott in the hot seat.
The best from all of us is yet to come.
We pressed the mayor on the councilman's concerns. I was going to say people are leaving the city because they don't feel like they can walk their dogs. We've seen assaults on a dog walker. We've seen people who are, getting their cars stolen right outside their house, and this continues to happen.
The fact of the matter is Baltimore is down in robberies. The fact of the matter is that we're down in homicides that we don't seem to talk about anymore, right? They're down 19% in the city of Baltimore. We know that auto thefts is an issue across this country.
According to Baltimore police data, robberies for this year are down 2% compared to this time last year, but that data doesn't eliminate the real fear from some community members. But is it acceptable that you're telling these people that homicides and the numbers are down, but people are still getting robbed, they're getting attacked?
Well, I think that, Mackenzie, you could be looking for some kind of sound clip, but the reality is that multiple things can be true. I was a victim, so I know better than most people. I don't know if you ever had a gun stuck in your face, so I know how that feels directly. But we also have to understand when you're talking about the totality of things, you have to tell them for all of it. Anybody that's a victim, I'm going to feel sorry for. Don't matter where they live in the city, don't matter what they look like, how long they've been here. But we also have to understand that this is not just on the backs of the women and men of BPD. This is not just about the police and what they're doing, because they are doing their job each and every day. This is about making sure that the system works.
So is DJS not working?
It's his turn to ask questions, Mackenzie.
Okay. The mayor not taking my last question about his view on the Department of Juvenile Services, which plays a role in the conversation centering around juvenile crime.
Access to a better way of life.
And as the mayor talks about the entire system working together,
we were bursting at the seams in our space at City Hall.
The corner piece to the mayor's crime-fighting plan is the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement.
2, 1.
afternoon, Monzi officially moving into a new building. The city is already spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to rent. Despite funding uncertainty, with many of Monzi's 40-plus employees funded through federal COVID money that's set to run dry, the agency continues to grow. Mayor Scott heading inside for a building tour, but leaving out the back door.
He's getting in already.
Evading our questions about how he defines success when it comes to Monzi's efforts at curbing crime. Remember, Monzi oversees Safe Streets. With little transparency about how Safe Streets measures success, it's difficult to know how the mayor views these efforts. Monzi routinely refusing to provide details about how mediations done by Safe Streets workers are defined, and the city refusing to disclose the names of those employees, despite taxpayers funding the program.
That I'm tired of talking to them about the same people, and that we.
Meanwhile, the war of words over crime-fighting strategies seems to continue.
Councilman says he has the respect and confidence in the deputy mayor. That means he has the confidence in the administration, because he's my deputy mayor for a reason.
Deputy Mayor Barksdale is the only one that I have confidence in right now to get the situation on. This situation has ballooned entirely out of control, and none of it is okay.
And questions about efforts to stop the violence remain unanswered. Now, while the mayor didn't take our questions here this afternoon, that doesn't mean that we'll stop asking them, demanding transparency and answers for how the city is spending your tax dollars. We're live in West Baltimore. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. According to Baltimore police, 223 people have been killed in the city this year. 535 have been shot and survived. Those numbers are down from this time last year, but the city is seeing spikes in car thefts and youth crime.
Juvenile violence was one of the top issues discussed at our Fox 45 town hall last night. Mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon, along with public safety experts and community leaders, weighing in on what needs to change to hold young offenders responsible.
The General Assembly needs to come back together sooner than January. And I know that there's been some workshops and meetings to really look at what the current laws look at. We don't want to lock up everybody, but you do have to have accountability.
Legislators need to go on ride-alongs. It used to be back in the day that they would show up with the police and go on ride-alongs and actually see what goes on in the community. Or maybe they need to take a visit out to some of the juvenile detention centers and actually see what's going on.
What we see every day is we're now treating a person that's stealing to survive a loaf of bread the same as we're treating a person that's intentionally arming themselves with a gun and putting a gun in someone's face and taking their belongings.
Well, that brings us to our question of the day. Has Mayor Scott's crime plan worked? So far, 86% of people that voted say no. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
If you missed last night's town hall, you can watch it Saturday at 1 on MyTV Baltimore. It will air again the same day at 11 on the CW. On Sunday, it will air at midnight on Fox 45. You can also stream the entire town hall online at foxbaltimore.com. The youth crime crisis is far from just a Baltimore issue. Fox 45 heard from more than a dozen prosecutors who represent roughly 80% of the state's population, who say their hands are tied by Maryland's juvenile justice laws in terms of holding offenders accountable. One example of that is in Montgomery County. Police say a child repeatedly made bomb threats because he knew he couldn't be punished. This month, 4 bomb threats were made at multiple schools across Montgomery County. Investigators say all of those threats were allegedly sent by a single 12-year-old. Children under the age of 13 in Maryland can only be charged with violent offenses, and police say this 12-year-old was well aware of the legal limitations because of his age.
Another tragic loss for the Baltimore Fire Department. Lieutenant Dylan Ronaldo has died. Ronaldo suffered severe burns while battling that house fire in northwest Baltimore last week. He died of those injuries last night at the burn unit.
Well, that fire has now claimed 2 lives. Lieutenant Dylan Ronaldo and also Rodney Pitts, both killed during that response. 3 others were hurt but have already been released from the hospital.
Well, today, Rodney Pitt's loved ones and fellow firefighters began saying their goodbyes during a viewing in Dundalk, attendees honoring his sacrifice and service of the city. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live now with the latest on the losses the department has suffered. Maxine.
Well, Mary, as you can imagine, the firefighters' hearts are very heavy tonight after losing two brothers in less than a week. Lieutenant Ronaldo injured here fighting the fire in Park Heights just last week. He had been at Bayview ever since and succumbed to his injuries late last night. Now, Ronaldo had been with the department since 2018, was promoted to lieutenant last year. According to an online fundraiser, he was recently engaged, his wedding just months away. Prior to his time in Baltimore, the Fairlawn Fire Department in New Jersey says he served 6 years with Engine Company 4. His father, the former chief of that department. Fire Officers Union President Josh Fannin says they were all hopeful that he would pull through.
After we knew we had lost Rodney Pitts, that we were clinging to some kind of hope that a silver lining to a already tragic situation was that we were going to be by Dylan's side and walk him out of the burn center one day on his road to full recovery. And we were hanging on to that.
Now, Ronaldo is the 6th member of the department to die in less than 2 years. There were 3 members of the department who died during the deadly Stricker Street fire in January 2022, and in October 2022, another member passed having a medical emergency while on duty. Services for Ronaldo have yet to be announced, and the fire here remains under investigation tonight. Reporting live in Park Heights, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Maxine. A woman fighting to get her car back for a second time is giving us a first-hand look from inside the city's impound lot. The growing frustration over the cars stolen in Baltimore.
The U.S. House of Representatives finally has a speaker. I'm Atrell Nashar on Capitol Hill with how Republicans were able to come to a consensus after 22 days.
And a run or a jog, I say all systems go for this evening. Temperatures after work as you're heading on home and hitting the trail. 71 degrees at 6 p.m., 7 p.m. temperature at 68 and 65 at 8. I'm going to let you know how chilly it gets tonight and how much warmer it could be tomorrow. That's up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
We have continuing coverage on the crisis in Israel. New drone video of the damage caused by Israeli airstrikes in Gaza. Israel has continued its attacks on locations it believes are hotbeds for Hamas activity. The IDF says it plans to continue its assault for as long as it believes it needs to eliminate Hamas.
The civilian casualties from the war continue to grow. This is footage from a central Gaza hospital last night. Many of the victims are children and families. According to the Palestinian health officials, more than 6,500 Palestinians have been killed. Another 17,000 are wounded. On the Israeli side, more than 1,400 people have been killed.
U.S. officials are reportedly urging Israel to avoid the full-scale ground assault on Gaza that the IDF has been preparing for. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this week told soldiers that plans for a ground offensive are still in the works.
The largest United Nations agency working in Gaza says it could be forced to halt aid operations if it does not get more fuel. Officials warn fuel is needed to power Gaza's hospitals, as well as purify and pump drinking water. A spokesperson for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency says if fuel runs out tonight or tomorrow, the agency will need to suspend aid efforts.
Fox 45 News is partnering with Magen David Adom for Sinclair Cares Humanitarian Relief for Israel. That organization is a Red Cross affiliate providing emergency aid for people in Israel. To help, scan the QR code on your screen or go to sinclaircares.com.
A live look at Capitol Hill tonight. We have finally chosen a new Speaker of the House. Congress has, after 3 weeks, multiple votes, and 4 GOP candidates. Representative Mike Johnson from Louisiana is the new Speaker of the House. Johnson managed to get unanimous support from his party, despite the conference being split for weeks. National correspondent Audra El-Nashar has been following the latest from Capitol Hill, has more for us tonight.
Today is the day we get this done.
After 4 nominating cycles and 22 days without a House Speaker, Republicans did get it done.
The Honorable Mike Johnson of the state of Louisiana, having received a majority of the votes cast, is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Speaker of the House Mike Johnson won the gavel on a party line vote without a single Republican voting against him.
Please raise your right hand.
What's next for Johnson would be difficult for any speaker, especially one who didn't expect to fill the job. Congress must fund the government by November 17th and decide how to proceed with the president's more than $100 billion request to fund Israel, Ukraine, the southern border, and Taiwan.
The challenge before us is great, but the time for action is now, and I will not let you down.
Elected to the House in 2016, Johnson has the least amount of legislative experience among the leaders with whom he'll be negotiating these issues. Beyond urgent funding needs, will Johnson be able to reach across the aisle to get things done? Former Speaker Kevin McCarthy and Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries managed to quickly form an amicable working relationship.
The Honorable Mike Johnson.
It could take longer for Johnson and Jeffries.
House Democrats will continue to push back against extremism in this chamber and throughout the country.
But Johnson may prioritize mending strains within his own party, on full display the past 22 days.
I think they're worn out, they're tired. I think the country is frustrated by it. The conference is frustrated by it.
The House is already back to work. Lawmakers moved immediately to debate and then vote on a resolution saying the United States stands with Israel and condemns Hamas. On Capitol Hill, I'm Audra El-Nashar.
All right, time to talk about our lovely weather. We could talk about this for the next 45 minutes, right?
Right?
It's so
yes.
nice.
We could feel this for the next 6 months. That'd be great, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no. But we'll enjoy it for the next 2-3 days, right? And you take a look out at our just absolutely gorgeous shot of the Mile 1 Tascam. Leaving a little bit of haze and some clouds. There's actually some rain that's been way up in New York and portions of Pennsylvania on the edge of some of this warm air. So that's what you see with the cloud cover. We're not getting any of that rain here, but we are getting the warm air. 76 Winds out of the southwest at 6 and our humidity at 29%. Dew point at 41. It is super dry, comfortable, warm air. 76 right now, Baltimore. 72 at Cockeysville. We did get down to 43 at BWI this morning, so just a monster recovery. Last check, I believe we made it to 77 thus far, so we're back on our way down. 73 out of Chestertown, 73 Columbia and Laurel. Temperatures all running somewhere about 5 degrees up to even almost 10 degrees above where they were just 24 hours ago. HC radar, some rain. There it is up toward New York and Canada, northwestern PA. And then on the other side of some of that, I mean, it is another season. Literally, look at this, a winter storm warning over portions of Montana. A multi-day snowstorm going to be going on there. We, though, are enjoying the stagnant pattern with sunshine and warmth. They're going to be sitting in, feet of snow, probably over the northern Rockies by the time it's all said and done. Showers north and west of us eventually will get here, but it probably takes till maybe Sunday or early next week. And then we get in on some of the cooler air. It won't be as cold as like what they're seeing right now at Billings, 16. We've got temperatures in the 80s, though. Memphis down to New Orleans, and we potentially could be in the 80s as well the next few afternoons. Taking a look out in the tropics, Tammy, right now a Category 2 hurricane, gradually looking like it's going to try to make a transition to an extratropical system east of Bermuda, and eventually will fall apart. Should not have impacts on the United States. Overnight tonight, temperatures falling through the 60s, back down into the 50s, even some 40s by early tomorrow morning. By lunchtime tomorrow, we're back through the 70s and potentially touch in some neighborhoods 80 degrees tomorrow afternoon. The record for the day is 81, 82 the record on Friday. We could potentially tie that, becoming even warmer yet, maybe on Saturday. 83, 87 is a record there. They're your spot showers potentially on Sunday, but I really think the best chance of some rain is on Monday, and then much cooler and blustery just in time for Halloween with highs only in the 50s.
She's getting her car back for a second time. We hear from a Baltimore woman who's had to go back to the impound lot twice to recover the same stolen car. The matchup is set for the World Series, looking ahead to what you can expect from the biggest series of the entire season.
The road through postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
The first two games of the NLCS, the Phillies looked unbeatable, and they were, jumping out to a 2-0 lead over the Diamondbacks. But the tables turned quickly in Arizona as the Diamondbacks took 2 of the next 3 at home. Then Game 6 in Philly, that set up a winner-take-all Game 7. 2 of the biggest words in sports. Standing room only for this one. Game tied at 2 in the 5th. Gabriel Moreno plays Corbin Carroll with a big RBI single, and that would give Arizona the lead. The Phillies, they had their opportunities to get back in this one. 2-on for Bryce Harper. Kevin Ginkel gets him to pop out the left. The Phils' big bats of Harper, Trey Turner, and Nick Castellanos. 0 for 23 combined in Games 6 and 7. Can't do that if you want to win the series. The Diamondbacks are headed to the World Series with a 4-2 win in Philadelphia. With that, the stage is set for the 2023 Fall Classic. It's the Diamondbacks representing the NL, beating the Phillies to get there. And the Rangers representing the AL, punching their ticket with a series win over the Astros. The two teams are going to square off this Friday in Game 1. The Rangers will have home field advantage. Games 1 and 2 will be played in Arlington before the two teams head out to the desert for Game 3. Guys.
Rocco, thank you. We are your exclusive home for the 2023 World Series. The Fall Classic begins Friday, October 27th. You can catch all the action right here on Fox 45. A Baltimore mayoral candidate making her positions on crime and public safety clear, what we've learned from our town hall last night. And where are all your tax dollars going? The calls for transparency on millions of dollars in spending from City Hall.
When I went back there, I seen nothing but stolen autos, Hyundai's Kias, and busted windows.
Speaking to Fox 45 News from inside the city's impound lot today, those words from a Baltimore woman whose car has been stolen twice in the last 6 weeks.
Amy Simpson is live now with this woman's roller coaster to get her car back. Amy?
Yes, Mary Kai, this Baltimore woman tells me she received a voicemail from a Baltimore police officer overnight saying her stolen car had turned up in southwest Baltimore, prompting her to spend several hours today at City Impound. It's an ordeal that thousands have endured in Baltimore City so far this year. Having a car stolen, jumping through hoops and headaches to get it back.
If I leave it at the pound, it will be auctioned off. Only other choice that I do have is just putting it in front of my door until I can get it fixed. Right now, the windows is busted out. This auto theft victim speaking to Fox 45 News in the midst of her visit to the Baltimore City Pulaski impound lot today. For the last few hours, I've been at the pound trying to get my vehicle out. Tanika Gaskins describing the atmosphere, waiting for her number to be called. Everybody that's waiting, they are here for stolen autos. This Baltimore woman, whose Hyundai has now been stolen twice, sharing these videos from inside the city's impound lot. They got me, yo, for the second time. Gaskin says the car's ignition is shot. They bust the windows. Video also showing both driver's side windows are gone. When I went back there, I seen nothing but stolen autos, Hyundai's keys, and busted windows. Earlier this month, Baltimore City's Department of Transportation declined Fox 45's request to tour this impound lot. Instead, our drone capturing a bird's eye view of the sea of cars inside. As of October 18th, the city said 584 stolen cars were inside this impound lot. I feel horrible about it, all because of TikTok. Gaskins blaming teens and social media for this crime trend with a tight grip on the Baltimore region. They see something trending on TikTok and now they're doing it. And a lot of juveniles, they know that it's really no consequences if they take the vehicle. They feel like, well, we under 17. If our moms come get us, we go home the same day after they done committed the crime. And this victim's message to those responsible. The message that I had for them is, one, can y'all please stop touching things that does not belong to you? Two, you can work hard and get it the same exact way that I got it. And to add insult to injury, Gaskin's telling me this week she still owes about $20,000 on that car loan, which she's still responsible for. All of this as her insurance premiums, she says, have gone through the roof. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. If you have a story about a stolen car or know somebody who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, we want to hear about it. Just scan the QR code on your screen, tell us what happened, or send an email to news@foxbaltimore.com. Well, the spike in car thefts in Baltimore was one of the issues discussed at our Fox 45 town hall last night. Mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon sharing her vision for what needs to change.
Well, we invited Mayor Scott to that town hall, but he didn't respond to our invitation. But as you just saw, his opponent in the upcoming mayoral election did attend. Fox 45's Tom Rogers breaks down her responses to the public's concerns with a political expert.
Baltimore mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon joined a Fox 45 town hall Tuesday night addressing viewers' questions about crime and safety and what changes she would make if elected. Political analyst John Dede says he was impressed with the way that she handled questions about a controversial program Dixon started when she was mayor, saying transparency on funding for safe streets is critical. Dede also says crime statistics versus how voters feel will play a big role in the next primary.
I thought that was a very good answer she gave because it was a very holistic answer about the city. And one thing that I thought about when I was watching this debate, it's going to be in 2024, perception versus reality on crime. If you feel safe, you may vote for Brandon Scott because the murder rate is down. It's only at 223 this year, which is about 50 less than last year at this time. But if the reality in your life is, I don't feel safer, I don't feel more comfortable, then you may vote for Dixon or you may vote for somebody else.
Do you think, though, that she was able to say, okay, I can get us back to when I was mayor before and bring those numbers down and the feel safe aspect? Do you think we were able to get that from last night's town hall?
I think she was able to do that as far as making people feel like they've been in this job before. I know what's going on with it. I think she was able to convey that. The big problem she's always going to have is the past ethical lapses and things like that.
Well, in 2009, a jury found Dixon guilty of embezzlement for misusing about $500 in gift cards that had been donated to City Hall for charity. The primary elections will be held May 14th. Tom Rogers, Fox 45 News.
If you missed last night's town hall, you can watch it Saturday at 1 on MyTV Baltimore. It'll air again the same day at 11 on the CW. On Sunday, it will air at midnight right here on Fox 45. You can also stream the entire town hall online right now at foxbaltimore.com.
A new IG report reveals Baltimore failed to collect more than $44 million in bills over a 12-year period. The IG says that debt came from various citywide invoices from 2005 to 2017. The city will now never be able to recover that money due to a 3-year statute of limitations.
Well, this report adding to a growing list of financial missteps in city government. In June, the city lost out on nearly $11 million in federal funding meant for homeless services. The IG report blamed the issue on improper credentials for people in that office. In September, a report revealed the Baltimore Housing Authority owes more than $8 million in past water due bills. The Housing Authority says the city's system of collecting payments isn't able to take overdue bills, so the money hasn't been paid back. And earlier this month, the Inspector General supported an audit of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement suggested by City Councilman Yitzi Schleifer. He says Monzi isn't being held to the same standards as some other city programs.
Here in City Hall, and so an agency like that should just be part of the agencies that are audited. We know it is taxpayer money, and so it doesn't matter, that it's going to a separate entity or a pass-through. It matters where the money's originating from, and the money's originating from the taxpayers' pockets.
Now, one government watchdog is considering a lawsuit against the city if there isn't more transparency surrounding how taxpayer dollars are spent. Fox 45's Jeff Abel looking into those concerns.
The amount of money is $10,000.
At City Hall, it seems spending
$48 million
is never out of season.
$500,000 per year.
But try figuring out where all those tax dollars are going.
$212,794.
And you could be in for a fight.
They're essentially telling us, sit down, shut up, we'll run things.
At OpenTheBooks.com, Adam Andrzejewski began months ago asking the city for a copy of its checkbook. He wanted to know where every dollar in every city agency has been going.
Who got paid? How much did they receive? And for what purpose?
His Freedom of Information request was similar to the request he's made in hundreds of other U.S. cities.
Chicago, New York City, Philadelphia.
So far, all other cities have complied with his request, but in Baltimore, there was a problem.
Last April, the city finance department produced a city checkbook with the vendor names redacted. And then when we followed up with them, they said that the new city software couldn't produce a proper checkbook.
What he received were documents very similar to these city documents, where many of the names of those who received tax dollars from the city were blacked out. Last month, Andrzejewski went straight to the comptroller's office, where he made the same request, hoping the comptroller would open the city's books without redactions.
It's been ignored. Our follow-up to produce under that request has also been ignored.
Andrzejewski plans to make one final request to the city this week. Then, if the books remain closed, he vows to take his request for public information to a public courtroom.
These are public expenditures, and they should be able to be shown to the public.
Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Well, the city has not explained why it chose to conceal the names of many vendors who have received city tax dollars.
Maryland's Attorney General says the state has a serious problem with mass incarceration. Brad Bell from our Sinclair sister station in D.C. takes a closer look at the issue.
The population of Maryland's jails and prisons is, according to state statistics, 71% African American.